You showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer the
theatrics are
question the
ridiculous.
way I asked it.
Hello, my name is Rip, and this is a really ignorant look into Pam Bondi. Pamela Jo Bondi is an American attorney and Republican politician from Florida. She earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from the University of Florida and a law degree from Stetson University College of Law before becoming a prosecutor in Hillsborough County, Florida, for nearly 2 decades. Bondi made history in Florida politics by being elected the first female Attorney General of Florida, serving from 2011 to 2019. In that role, she focused on law enforcement issues such as combating pill mills that were fueling the opioid crisis and strengthening laws against human trafficking and other crimes. She also took conservative legal positions, including joining multi-state challenges to federal healthcare law and defending Florida's same-sex marriage ban before it was overturned.
Crime and brutality fueled by drugs. As Attorney General, I banned synthetic forms of heroin and acid that are poisoning our kids. And with our amazing law enforcement, we closed down the pill mills. Of the top 100 oxycodone dispensing doctors in this country, 98 of them lived in Florida. Today, there are none.
Pam Bondi, our Attorney General.
You said that Maduro is responsible for drug trafficking. You recently pardoned the former president of Honduras, who was convicted on many drug trafficking. Can you explain how these two situations are different? And would you ever pardon Maduro?
I endorsed, as you know, the winning president, the man who won in Honduras. I endorsed the man who won in Chile. I endorsed the man who won in Argentina. And we are doing very well with that whole group. What the man that I pardoned was, if you could equate it to us, he was treated like the Biden administration treated a man named Trump. That didn't work out too well for them. This was a man who was persecuted very unfairly. He was the head of the country. He was persecuted very unfairly. And there are a number of them. And we felt that it was a very unfair situation that happened to him. He's also a party member of the man who won. So obviously the people liked what I did. And one of the reasons that was done is because of the fact that the party in power felt very strongly that that man was treated very badly. I studied it very quickly, and then I studied it in great detail. I went to a lot of the people standing behind me, and they felt that that man was persecuted and treated very badly. That's why I gave him a pardon.
Pam Bondi has consistently taken a tough stance on drugs, focusing on enforcement, prosecution, and public safety. As both Florida Attorney General and U.S. Attorney General under President Trump, she emphasized combating illegal drugs, particularly fentanyl, heroin, methamphetamine, and cartel-trafficked substances, often describing fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. So why does she go back on her principles as Trump pardons drug dealers? Why stand by as you see something that goes against what you believe in?
Florida ranks 3rd nationally in calls for help for human trafficking, where young women and children are enslaved and abused. I knew we needed all hands on deck. Businesses and hospitals to spot it, our great law enforcement to stop it, and tougher penalties to punish it. We're taking on Medicaid fraud, pill mills, gangs, and more, and I'll fight to put human trafficking monsters where they belong, behind bars.
Pam Bondi, our Attorney General.
As Florida Attorney General, Pam Bondi made anti-human trafficking a priority, launching initiatives to prevent child sex trafficking, increase awareness, and push for tougher laws and penalties against traffickers. She advocated for Florida to be a zero-tolerance state for human trafficking, strengthened laws to ensure sex traffickers were treated as serious offenders, and promoted public education and law enforcement cooperation to identify and rescue victims. Bondi also supported collaboration at anti-trafficking summits and urged global cooperation to combat sexual slavery, highlighting the transnational nature of the crime and the need for community involvement from law enforcement, educators, and service providers. Her experience and dedication to combating sex and labor trafficking were recognized by advocacy groups, who publicly supported her nomination as U.S. Attorney General.
Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent presidency. He's the one that asked that those files
I'm reclaiming my time.
be
I got your
released.
answer. You said there's no evidence.
President Trump asked
Mr. Chairman, please
I'd
stop
like
the
to
clock.
reclaim my
Please
time.
stop the clock.
The legislation.
Time.
This is
Time.
this
I'd like
is
to reclaim my
ridiculous.
time.
Time belongs to the gentleman from California.
Okay. I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath, and this is all on videotape. You said there's no evidence of a crime. I'm showing you, here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was gonna stop the limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately. Epstein should rot in hell, so should the men who patronized his operation. And as we sit here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing concludes.
Pam Bondi has faced significant criticism from lawmakers, victims advocates, and other observers for her handling of sensitive information, her responses during congressional hearings, and a perceived reluctance to fully engage with survivors, raising debate over whether her current actions are consistent with her publicly stated anti-trafficking stance.
Here is another email titled Epstein Victim List. We have blurred the names of the survivors for their protection, but your Department of Justice initially released this list of 32 survivors' names with only one name redacted, along with numerous files that disclose not only the names, the emails, and the addresses of survivors, but also nude photographs and even the identities of Jane Does who had been protected for decades until your department released their names. Survivors are now telling us that their families are finding out for the first time that they were trafficked by Epstein. In their words, quote, "This release does not provide closure. It feels like a deliberate attempt to intimidate survivors, punish those who came forward, and reinforce the same culture of secrecy that allowed Epstein's crimes to continue for decades." To the survivors in the room, if you are willing, please stand. And if you are willing, please raise your hands if you have still not been able to meet with this Department of Justice. Please know for the record that every single survivor has raised their hand. Attorney General Bondi, you apologized to the survivors in your opening statement for what they went through at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein. Will you turn to them now and apologize for what your Department of Justice has put them through with the absolutely unacceptable release of the Epstein files and their information?
Congresswoman, you sat before Merrick Garland sat in this chair twice.
Attorney General Bondi,
No, can I finish my answer?
No, I'm going to reclaim my time because I asked you a specific question
Attorney General
that I
can
would
respond to your
like
question.
you to answer, which is, will you turn to to the survivors. This is not about anybody that came before you. It is about you taking responsibility for your Department of Justice and the harm that it has done to the survivors who are standing right behind you and are waiting for you to turn to them and apologize for what your Department of Justice has done.
Is this the same Pam Bondi that said she fights for trafficked victims? Well, I'm sure she takes this seriously enough to want to answer the question.
Mr. Chairman, the gentlelady's reclaimed her
I'm not going
time.
to get in the gutter for her theatrics.
The time belongs to the gentlelady. The gentlelady has 17 seconds.
Thank you. You're not going to answer this question, so let me just
Chairman,
say
I'll
this.
direct it to
What
you.
a massive
No, I'm
cover-up.
answering a
Mr.
question.
Chairman, will you
Chairman.
restore her time? The witness is
I'm not
interrupted.
going to get in the gutter with this woman.
Stop the
She's
time
doing
and
theatrics.
let me have my time.
Gentlelady,
Bondi declined to face them, calling to request theatrics instead, but maybe that's because she has already helped the victims that are in that courtroom, and we just don't know it.
Would the survivors and victims who are here please stand up one more time? Just by show of hands, how many of you or your loved ones actually have met with the Department of Justice and provided testimony and estimate and evidence? None. And of those of you who have not met, which is everyone, how many of you have reached out either individually or through a lawyer or representative to offer to provide testimony and evidence? All of them. And of those of you, all of you who have reached out, how many of you were denied or ignored by the Department of Justice? All of them. And despite the shameful and despicable efforts by Ms. Bondi and her department to intimidate you, how many of you are still willing to speak to the Department of Justice? All of them. Well, Ms. Bondi, it looks like you have some more witnesses to talk to.
With Pam Bondi showing us that the only part of this she is taking serious is the cover-up. Let's talk more about her role in the U.S. Department of Justice. The head of the U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, is the Attorney General of the United States, who serves as the nation's chief law enforcement officer and chief legal advisor to the federal government. As a member of the President's cabinet, the Attorney General leads the DOJ and is responsible for ensuring that federal laws are fairly and consistently enforced across the country. The Attorney General oversees major federal law enforcement agencies, including the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, ATF, and the United States Marshal Service, as well as federal prosecutors, U.S. attorneys nationwide. Through these agencies, the Attorney General supervises investigations and prosecutions involving terrorism, organized crime, drug trafficking, public corruption, civil rights violations, cybercrime, and other federal offenses. In addition to overseeing law enforcement, the Attorney General provides legal advice to the President and executive agencies, represents the United States in major legal matters, and oversees cases argued before the Supreme Court of the United States. The Attorney General also helps set national justice policies and priorities, shaping how federal laws are interpreted and applied throughout the executive branch. The Attorney General is not supposed to redact names to protect traffickers or cover up scandals. The Attorney General's duty is to enforce federal law impartially, uphold the Constitution, and ensure justice is administered fairly. While redactions can legally occur, they are typically used for legitimate reasons, such as protecting ongoing investigations, safeguarding confidential informants, shielding victims' identities, especially in trafficking or abuse cases, or preventing the disclosure of classified or sensitive information. These decisions are made under established legal standards within the United States Department of Justice and may be subject to court review. If redactions were used improperly to hide misconduct that would violate ethical obligations and potentially the law, and oversight mechanisms such as courts, inspectors general, and Congress exist to address such abuses. In short, legally and ethically, the Attorney General is expected to act independently of political influence when enforcing federal law, meaning that decisions about investigations, prosecutions, and enforcement should be based on evidence, the law, and the public interest rather than partisan considerations. DOJ ethics guidance emphasizes that the Attorney General must recuse themselves from cases where political bias could compromise justice, such as matters involving the president, family members, or campaign associates. So what do you think? Is Pam Bondi doing a good job? Should she be fired? Is there anyone else that should get a really ignorant look into? Let me know in the comments below.